So
all right, it's on. Okay. So this week in digital literacies and 21st century skills, we've been reading about social media. Today on the podcast, my name is Kerri, and I have Elizabeth.
Hi.
And Dakota.
Hi.
And a couple of things we are talking about, we wanted to include in our podcast for today was the video of China ranks good and bad citizens with social credit. I know that I think the video that Aaron posted, I'm not sure if it's still up or not. I think it is, but it was really interesting, and I think it weaved in really well to the rest of the topic this week. Or as the reading, I think we're going to mostly talk about the Silicon Valley billing Chinese style social credit system. What did you guys think about that reading?
I thought it was really kind of scary myself. I thought, the fact that they said it was, I think they referred to it as like no dark corner, because there was nowhere to hide. They had that face recognition and all that stuff. And it was just kind of scary to think about, what could happen here based on what's going on over there.
I agree, because it is really scary, like how they have so much control and you're kind of like micromanaged in such a big society.
I think that it's really interesting that, after reading that article, in the article, it talked a lot about Uber and Airbnb and how we're kind of rated too after we use those services. Yeah. And I almost get this impression that, before we know it, maybe we are going to be rated the way maybe the people in China are, and it'll happen before we even know it's here.
I agree. I think that I think I mentioned this to you guys previously, but I think the scariest part about it all was the lack of democracy. That they're kind of being tried without any judge or jury. Mm-hmm. And in the same way it said in the, Airbnb can block users without having to give them a reason as to why, they're not allowed to book an Airbnb anymore. And it's kind of scary because it is sort of similar. You can see the similarities.
Yeah, like you don't have a fair trial. Like, how can you prove someone's innocence without having, like, if they have the power just to stop everything, what makes them stop from just having that power for that company and taking on more of a bigger role in our society?
Yeah, because I think in China they said too, they're not allowed to travel. They can't get tickets on the train, or in the same way that maybe an Uber system could, block us from using Uber or whatever. And it's on a smaller scale, but it's the same theory. It's the same concept. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit frightening. But we talked about too, I think they had said, 80% of Chinese people support the system. But I highly doubt that's true, because I think they're afraid to say that, they don't support it for fear of what's going to happen to them, maybe.
Yeah, I agree, because they won't.
Yeah, go ahead, Dakota.
Oh, sorry. Well, I agree, because but how much of that population are they actually testing out? Because China is a very large area. So are they only doing certain cities where they know people are?
Yeah, I think they said they were testing it in Beijing, but mm-hmm. I think they do. I could be wrong about this, but I think they were planning on fully implementing it for 2020 from some of the stuff I read. So it's definitely happening. It's very scary.
It's really scary. And, you know, the way the communist country's been run, like, for so long, I feel like either the 80% of people who are in that group, either they are kind of afraid of what their government might do to them if they were to talk back or like express what they really feel about that, obviously. And then I'm sure some of it, I think some of it also might have to do, like, maybe some of them are a little bit brainwashed. Maybe some of them kind of feel like, okay, well, this is the way it is here. This is the way it's been for a long time. And maybe we should just have proper etiquette online, and maybe we should just not be purchasing beer with our money. And, you know, maybe some of it does have to do with, you know, just that fear, just some of that brainwashing too.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually, you know, we had to do the argument this week for the pros and cons, like whether we're arguing for social media or against social media. So I kind of used that as my pro, actually, what you're saying for social media, because I said, you know, maybe being ranked on who we are as people sort of encourages us to be better people. I don't know. You know, I mean, it's a scary thought, but if I'm, you know, trying to reach for the positive, maybe like trying to be a good person or be a good citizen and follow all the laws and follow the rules can be beneficial in some way too.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about that. Like, I think once, I think almost the direction we might need to head in is, once we have like that digital footprint, we need to think like, okay, well, even long after we're dead, this is how we can be memorialized. Mm-hmm. So I think people need to, I still think maybe it's still so fresh that people don't think in terms like that right now. But I think they need to start doing that. We need to start doing that.
Yeah, I think in one of the readings with, I think it was it Sacco, where I forget which example it was, where, you know, you forget who your actual audience is versus your intended audience. I think a lot of the younger generation, the students that will be teaching that kind of thing, they are not thinking in those terms yet. And they're not remembering that just who they're posting it for, who they're intending to post it for is not necessarily who's seeing it. And I think that's where a lot of the, you know, education needs to come in with the digital online presence, you know, so that they're aware of those kind of things. What did you guys think about how the Chinese put their faces on the screen, like the public shaming aspect of it?
Oh my goodness. Go ahead, Dakota.
Oh, I felt like really bad. Like, how do you like feel like you almost are like a pariah once that is put on display, and no one can, like, it's like you try to take it back, but how long does it take for you to get your name to be good again in a way?
Right. It made me think of, you know, when people write bad checks back in the check days, which are probably kind of a past thing now too, but when people used to write a bad check, you know, and they would hang it on the cash register in the store or whatever, you know, public shaming. And I guess it's always been there in a certain way, maybe just a less public way. That didn't make any sense, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's
and I don't even know how bad does it have to get for you to have your name, your picture up there on those boards? Like, I don't think what a lot of these people doing, I'm sure some of them, they're not doing anything that horrendous.
Yeah.
They're probably just a bunch of small little mistakes maybe that accumulated into like having a bunch of points against them. And
Yeah.
now,
And who's to say it's even accurate? I think I got watching more videos after the one played that he recommended. It kind of, how they just kind of keep going on YouTube and it plays the next one. And so I was interested in it. So I kept watching more and more about it. And, there was a couple of, examples where their government, kind of blacklisted them and it was inaccurate, but they have no recourse to fix it. And even trying to speak out and the fact that it was inaccurate actually makes it worse for them. So, it's scary because they have no means of standing up for themselves.
Yeah, and we're all human, so like we could easily just make a simple mistake or a simple misunderstanding, and someone just takes that as like, okay, now you did wrong, and now you're gonna just suffer the consequence because I don't agree with whatever you did or said.
Right. Yeah, it's like that reading we did where the guys were in the audience and they just made that joke and how much that just crushed both the guys who made the joke, but then the girl who called them out for it. Like they're both ends of it. Their lives were completely ruined, just by one moment of poor judgment or however you want to interpret that whole example. It was interesting.
Yeah, I thought that whole Justine Sacco reading was interesting and disturbing. Like you don't really realize that when you're behind a screen that the entire world can potentially be your audience, and you can't just use it as you're talking to your smallest group of like closest friends who know you well. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like after doing like all these readings and watching this that like it sort of makes you change how you behave online? Because I know I'm like, before I post something now, I'm really thinking it through. Like, it's making me so much more conscious of, I don't know, just being more careful, I guess.
Yeah, because once it's out on the web, you can't really delete it.
Yeah.
And anyone can find it, no matter, even if your stuff is private. Like, there's hackers, they can easily just get there and they can distort that image and make it a whole nother story and can ruin someone's life in a way because you posted it for one reason, but then someone else took it and twisted it, and now you're trying to scramble back and fix everything.
Yep.
That's another good point. We don't even know like what's real, like about a person.
Yeah.
Pretty scary.
Yeah, it is. Like, I heard about some of those things in the news, not to the extreme of what was going on, but then you read these detailed, what actually happened, and it's frightening. It really is.
Things get totally misconstrued, and I think I've always been kind of cautious as far as social media goes, but like I'm more concerned about like when my son is old enough to get his hands onto these things, and like because it's I think you're right. I think teaching and educating.
Yep. Yeah, I have 2 teenagers, so this is hot topic in our house a lot. And even it is, because things that you think are funny at 14 or 16 that you might want to post online, and I'm constantly telling them that's never going to go away. And I certainly, thank God, this didn't exist when I was 14 and 16. But and then the whole example about the college application where the kid that was in the gang was trying to separate himself from that, and it just goes to show that even your college application, they're going to be looking you up and seeing what kind of person you are.